I'm really hoping I'm in focus, but if not, I don't know what we're gonna do about that. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm Sabrina Potter and I cannot believe how long it's been since I've just done a talking video. I thought it would be nice to be outside today because it's nicer to look at than my blank wall. So if there's any noises in the background, I apologize in advance. A lot of people have asked me questions throughout the series that I've been posting, so now's the time where I'm gonna answer all the questions as best I can. So without further ado, let's get started. How did you get into yachting? Well, getting into yachting was not a part of my plan at all. I didn't even know yachting existed until the pandemic. So basically what happened was I studied TV production. In my final year, I had one more paper to write and the pandemic hit. And I had to come home for lockdown. So I finished my degree and graduated in the first few months of lockdown. And then I worked for a charity and I did various things to pass the time. But when the new year came around, 2021, I started to get very restless. And that's when I found out about yachting. Once I saw people on YouTube and stuff like that, I decided to do my own research and decided that it would be a good path to take as a temporary career. So I went down to Cape Town, I did my training, I got some day work down there, and then I got connected with Captain Colin, and that's how I got that trip. Honestly, I had no idea how yachting would go for me, but I wanted to do something, and I've always wanted to travel, so I just thought, you know what, I'll make the money back for the courses, might as well go for it. It's not like I'm doing anything at home during the pandemic, so that's how I got into yachting. What courses did you do? So in order to get into yachting in any position, there is one main course that every single person needs to do regardless of what position you want to be in, and that is called your STCW. Essentially, this course just ensures that you are safe to work on the ocean, you know what to do if there's a fire, if you get stranded on an island, you can take care of yourself, if someone needs CPR, you know how to give it. Besides that, I did a Stewardess course with Super Yachting South Africa in Cape Town, and I did a Food Health and Safety Level 2 course. If you want to be a stewardess, just do those 2 courses. Bare minimum, There's lots of extras that you can add on top of it, but if you're like me and you don't have loads of expendable cash, I just decided to do the bare minimum that I could do, and then I'd get a job, and then I could upskill and do more courses. When it comes to courses, there are hundreds and hundreds of courses you can do in every single position. So in the link below, I will tag a website that will show you every single course that you could possibly do depending on the career path that you want. That's all the way from being a chef, stewardess, exterior worker, engineer, captain, all the courses you need for all of those things. Where can you do your courses? So there are training centers everywhere in the world. In South Africa, I think the main places are in Cape Town and Durban, and I think in the UK the main places are Bristol, Portsmouth, and Isle of Wight. I'm pretty sure those are the main places. But if I was you, just Google STCW near me or yacht courses South Africa, yacht courses Dubai, wherever you are in the world, there will be courses close to you. Now, obviously courses are different prices in different places, so if you ask me the cheapest, I'd say come to Cape Town, but if that's not a choice, not to fret, there will be a course near you. Where did you do your training? Okay, so I did my training with Super Yachting South Africa in Cape Town, and the way that you do it is you book a package. So I just booked the basic stewardess package, and that included my STCW, my stewardess course, my food health and safety level 2, and my ENG1, which is a medical certificate that everyone needs if they're going to be working on the ocean. This includes people that work on cargo ships. If you work on the ocean, you need an ENG1 medical. It essentially just assures that you are healthy and you're not going to collapse halfway through service. So yeah. Best times to go seasonal. Okay, so yachting is a seasonal industry. That means we chase the sun. If it's summer, there is yachting happening. Guests don't want to be on a boat when it's cold, so they come to the boats in the summer. That is the best way to figure out where to go if you can't remember specific months. If you want something a little bit more specific, I will put a graph right here. As you can see, there are two different lines on the graph. That is for the Mediterranean versus the Caribbean. Essentially, the Northern Hemisphere versus the Southern Hemisphere. So I've only ever been to the Northern Hemisphere. I haven't done a Caribbean season yet, so I'm not going to speak too much on that because the seasons do get affected by current events, but I will talk about the Mediterranean. So in the Mediterranean, that includes all the places like Italy, Spain, France, Portugal, Greece, all those places in Europe. And if you're on an explorer yacht, it could probably include places like Thailand or something. I haven't been there, so I'm not going to talk too much about it. In Europe, when I went in my first year, it was COVID times. And so that meant loads of crew were stuck at home because of lockdowns and because they couldn't get visas and stuff like that. And there were loads of yachts who had come over because when you're on the ocean, you don't have to abide by land laws sometimes. Like there are certain things that don't apply to you when you're on the ocean. So there were loads of yachts looking for crew and no crew could go over. That meant it was super easy to get a job. I arrived in the middle of season. At that point, normally you'd only get day work, but for me, I found a job within 2 days. Typically, the summer season starts to kick off around March, April, May. That's because that's kind of like springtime, especially by the time you hit the beginning of May, it's like things go from 0 to 100 so fast. Like, it's crazy. That's when all the yachts start to arrive from the Caribbean, from Florida, from different places. Everyone starts to head over around then, so the season really, really picks up. If you want to find a job, try to be there around March, April, May. Normally, in the past, beginning of April / middle of March would have been a good before the crowds time to arrive. Last year, though, I arrived in the middle of March, and because of the war in Ukraine and Russia, it was completely different. There were so few boats because of all the Russian yachts that had been embargoed and locked up. So there was barely any day work. No one was getting jobs. The season only started at the beginning of May. So when you're trying to figure out when to go to these places, try to keep current affairs in mind because it really does change things. Now, the season kind of lasts from May all the way through to October. It's hot, it's sunny, it's nice. October, there's like a few days that are chilly here and there, and then all of a sudden one day, it's like the sun just leaves. The warmth, gone, finished. That's when season ends. And that's pretty much in October. Most yacht crew contracts that are seasonal, most of them end in like September, October time. After that, yachts will typically either go over to the Americas or they will go into shipyard for repairs, maintenance. If the boat got bought by a new owner, they'll change the name, they'll change the main salon, stuff like that. And then as you can see on this graph, things are exactly the opposite in the Caribbean. So in Europe, when the season is high, in the Caribbean, the season is low, and vice versa. So that's the best way to remember it. Just keep in mind, when is summer, that's the best time. Did you get seasick? Okay, so this is like a whole story. Oh my gosh. So my first time ever on a boat was December 2020. My family had gone on holiday, and we went on this tiny little fishing boat. It was tiny. And I think we could only fit like 7 people on it, but not like 7 people, like 7 people, if you know what I mean. On that boat, my dad got seasick, and I believe that I got empathetically seasick on that trip because I was fine until he wasn't fine. You know what I mean? So my next time on a boat was March 2021, so like 4 months later. I think it was April actually. And that time I got so seasick, I thought I was gonna die. Honestly, I thought I was going to hospital. Like, It was awful. I had 6 to 7 guests on board. They were all men, like in their 50s, 60s, 70s, like men with grandkids. And they were cooking and stuff like this. And then I was cleaning and serving the food to them and stuff like that. And all the different smells. And the boat was rocking like this. And it was just a lot. And I remember the way that it started, it was like a cage came over my head and was like, oh, it just felt like tight. And then I got really, really hot. And then, yeah, I was throwing up. I was literally throwing up as quietly as I possibly could, because the only place I could go where they couldn't see me, they would have been able to hear me while they were eating lunch. So I was like, okay, throw up, but be quiet, because they're trying to enjoy their food. Which I think I succeeded in, because then one of them came down to ask for a drink and he was like, oh, are you okay? And I was like, no, I'm fine. So I have been seasick, but what I've noticed is that the human body is so good at adjusting to what's going on. When I went sailing, it was 2 months long of sailing, and I did get a tiny bit seasick, but not really. So what happened was, every time we would leave land, my head would start to feel a bit fuzzy and I would get really exhausted, like my head felt heavier than it should, and I'd just go to sleep for a couple hours, and whenever I woke up, I was fine. It is very different though, because we were on a catamaran. On a catamaran, you have 2 hulls, where normally, like the boat where I was very sick is a mono hull, so it means the bottom of the boat is like this kind of shape, and then when we were sailing, the bottom of the boat was like that. So it means it was a lot more stable, because it has 2 supports as opposed to 1 axis, if that makes sense. So the tilt angle wasn't too much on a catamaran, which is probably why I didn't get so sick, but I've been on boats since then and haven't gotten seasick at all. So don't be scared. If you get seasick and you're interested in yachting, don't let seasickness be the reason you don't do it. Everyone gets seasick at least once at some point. You know, there are motion sickness tablets, there are things you can do. So don't let that stop you, because I know some people that were like, oh, you got seasick, that means you can't be in yachting. I'm in yachting and I'm fine. Did you stop to get food? We didn't stop to get food. We stored food in the freezer and the fridge, and then we fished every day, and every time we caught a fish, we'd probably only eat like half of it and save half of it to try and keep up our food supply. But we were so far from land, we couldn't just stop for food just like la-di-da, you know, like we were, in order to avoid areas that are rich in pirating, we had to stay quite far away from land. So no, we didn't stop for food. Okay, so someone was asking about, in my video, the first vlog from sailing, the first week of sailing, I showed a screenshot of the AIS, and in front of our boat there was a line doing this. That is to show your direction, because the thing is, you can be headed this way, but the wind pushes you this way, or the waves push you either way. So as much as you're headed this way, eventually you can end up a little bit more in one of the directions. So the flickering like that just kind of shows you pretty much your trajectory no matter what happens. It does help with collisions and preventing collisions, but it's not really the main way that we use to prevent collisions. The way that I was taught, and I'm sure everyone does it differently because I didn't do a course for this, I was taught this by my captains, but the way that you prevent collision is, say now there's a boat over there, right? He's over there. What you do is you look at them and you put your finger out where you think they are, and you just watch them and keep your finger in place. Don't move it. Don't move your finger. It's not going to work. You have to keep it perfectly in place. And if they are headed directly for you and you're going to collide, they will stay in line with your finger. But 9 times out of 10, you'll hold your finger there, and as much as it feels like they're headed towards you, the boat slowly seems to be doing this away from your finger. And that means, because they're far away, so it looks like they're coming at you, but by the time that you meet each other, you're in line with each other, they've come all the way to here, and now you've missed each other. So that's the way that I've been taught to watch out for collisions. What did you mean our time when you were arriving in Portugal? Okay, so in the vlog from arriving in Portugal, there's one shot where I say, right now in Portugal, it's 2:30, well, 10 to 3, I guess, where for us it's almost 12. So that's pretty crazy. That's a big difference. Essentially what happened was we would change our clocks according to the sun because we were so far from land we couldn't set it to different land things, and we also didn't have access to Wi-Fi or internet or any kind of phone signals, so we didn't know what time it was for anyone but us. So that basically meant that when we left Cape Town, we were on Cape Town time. And at least a week or two later, we noticed that the sun was going down at 3 p.m. or it was rising at 9 a.m. or whatever, and it all just felt a little bit too late or a little bit too early. And so what we would do is we just adjust our clocks according to the sunrise and sunset, and that would keep our watch times regulated. I found that very interesting because I didn't know we were going to do that. How did you manage to land the deal? Okay, so it's my next goal. I'm excited for you. I hope you meet the goal. With this trip, I was very lucky. I got to do some day work when I was in Cape Town with this company called Cape Town Yacht Services. And basically, after the day work, I ended up going home because there wasn't very much work in Cape Town. I messaged him one day out of the blue and was like, hey, do you know anyone that's looking for someone? I would really love to work. And he goes, call this guy, he just walked into my office, he's looking for crew. So I phoned him and I was like, hello, like so-and-so gave me your number, I hope you don't mind. Like, he didn't even ask for my CV or anything. He was like, are you available? What passport are you on? It's not paid. Is that fine with you? And I was like, I'm fine, I'm available, I just want to work, I don't even care, take me on a boat, let's go. And he was like, okay, cool. And then I got the job and that was it. So I know that's not very helpful because I was very lucky, but I think the lesson that I learned is how important networking is. So networking with the right people is the way to get the jobs that you want, I feel like, because I would never have been connected to this guy if I didn't do the day work in Cape Town. How long was the sail? Okay, so the sailing was supposed to be like a month-ish, but it ended up being 2 full months. I think it was almost 2.5 months even. So it was a very long trip. Everyone who's in sailing was like, it shouldn't have taken that long. It's just because there were problems with the boat. Okay, what is the best thing about the industry? I think the best thing about the industry, besides traveling and seeing places you wouldn't have otherwise, is the people. Like, I've met some of the most incredible people in yachting. They're very open-minded, very flexible people, because we have to be. Like, it's difficult though because you meet someone that's amazing and you're like, oh my word, this is my new best friend. Like, I love this person. And then one of you gets a job and you immediately have to leave like the next day. So it's one of those industries where you meet the best people, but you leave them very quickly, unfortunately. So yeah. What is the worst thing about the industry? Okay, so the worst thing in the industry, I would say it can be quite lonely. As I said, you meet incredible people and then you have to say goodbye to them like pretty much immediately. But besides that, one thing that makes me very sad about yachting, where the industry is very superficial, like they like to hire good looking people. Like, I literally met someone once at this bar in France and he was saying to me, because I was like, oh, well, if you guys are ever looking, like, maybe I can give you my CV or whatever. And he was like, I'm really sorry, but our madame, so that means like the wife of the owner of the boat, or maybe she's the owner, but most of the time madame is the wife. He goes, I'm really sorry, but the madame on our boat only wants to hire men that look good with shirts off. That's it. So, you know, the industry can be quite superficial in terms of looks. Like the thing, oh, it's starting to rain. Wait, it's starting to rain. Okay, I hope I'm in focus. I'm just gonna have to end this video off here inside. Sorry about the scene change, but the weather had other plans. But yeah, so the thing about the industry that makes me the most sad about the superficiality of everything is that I've noticed there are not a lot of people of color in the industry. I think so far since joining yachting 2 years ago, I think I've met 2 to 5 people of color, and it seems like it does take them a lot longer to get a job than their white counterparts, and that makes me very sad. Hopefully it'll change one day, and maybe it is just because I've only ever been in Europe in the industry, but it just makes me sad. It shouldn't be happening. It's 2023, so I think we should be past that. But anyway, so yeah, those are my answers to your questions about yachting and sailing. I hope that this was very informative and helpful. Remember, if there's a question that I answered but I didn't touch on you specifically, there's probably a link down below that explains things more thoroughly. So yeah, if you guys have any other questions, be sure to leave them down below or send them to me on Instagram. I'll be sure to make another video answering all of them. And I can't wait to see you guys next time. After this, my YouTube channel is getting a whole little makeover, change up, #new era of Sabrina Potter, and I'm very excited about it. I hope you are too. And I hope that you'll subscribe so that you don't miss any of it, because it's gonna be great. It's gonna be awesome. So yeah, I can't wait to see you guys next time. I love you lots. Bye.